ES Audio.
From the Evening Standard in London, I'm Rochelle Travers, and this is The Leader. All quiet on the Western Front.
Paul Bäumer.
Ich möchte noch nicht loslegen.
The Netflix movie, nearly entirely in German, has already made history at the BAFTAs after becoming the award's most decorated foreign language film of all time with 7 wins. A success it's hoping to match at the Oscars. But the story of how this epic anti-war tale actually came to fruition isn't the most traditional. It involves 16 years of perseverance, countless grueling triathlons, and a prevailing childhood love of the original 1929 novel. Lesley Paterson is a producer and screenwriter for the film, and let's just say she didn't have the most conventional background when it came to making movies. So, Lesley, how exactly do you become a triathlete and a screenwriter?
Yeah, so, I've always been an athlete from a very young age. I was a rugby player first, as the only girl on an all-boys team at Stirling County in Scotland, where I grew up. And so I've always loved to face the hard obstacles in life and try and overcome them. And when I was no longer allowed to play rugby with the boys, I got into triathlon through my dad and was really pretty good at that quickly. And got in the Scottish and then national team, and it was a labour of love. I absolutely, just thought it was amazing, and always wanted to go to the Olympics. But simultaneously, I was doing ballet dancing, I was in theatre groups, and I ended up studying my undergraduate in drama at Loughborough University at the same time as competing, and that's pretty much been the way it's gone for the last 20 years of my life, competing and doing, my art, at the same time.
Lesley, All Quiet on the Western Front wouldn't have actually been possible without your earnings as a triathlete, would it?
Yeah, totally. So, when you're a triathlete, the earnings are few and far between, but you focus on race winnings. And so race winnings are always, they're not a guarantee. So that's kind of like the cream on top. So that's what we utilise to fund the payments of the option of the novel. So yeah, every step of the way it was kind of using sport and art at the same time.
Tell us about your relationship with the novel All Quiet on the Western Front. When did you read it and what kind of impact did it have on you?
Yeah, so I read it at school, and to be honest, it's just such a gorgeous novel. It's so poetic. The themes are so prevalent even now of, the betrayal of a youthful generation, and obviously telling it from the other side was so fascinating to me, because so often we never see, German, filled with humanity, and that's what this novel is. So it's just a beautiful book.
Did you always want to make it into a film?
It actually came about because they had a special deal, like a special promotion of the book, way back in 2006. And my writing partner at the time, Ian, and I read the book for the second time or third time or whatever it was. And of course, just were re-engaged with the material and were fascinated about turning it, adapting it again and turning it into a film, because it hadn't been for many years. And World War I is obviously such an impactful war. We felt like it was the right time to do that. So then we inquired about the rights to the novel, and they were available, which was quite shocking, really, as outsiders and no-name writers, to be able to do that, because most titles of this magnitude are already picked up by the studios or big producers, but they were available. And I think a large piece of that was to do with the fact that World War I was not covered much, in cinema at the time, because cinema was largely American-centric. And of course, World War I, is not American-centric at all. It's European-centric. So the appetite for it was a lot less. So times have changed, and of course, that's meant making this film possible.
It actually took 16 years for this film to get made. How did you eventually get that yes?
Yeah, so, 16 years is a long time to keep reinventing the wheel and really just kind of taking various different steps and side steps and thinking outside the box about how to get it done, having different directors on board, pitching new people, having different financiers, different producers, different actors, and the landscape is ever changing, and certainly 16 years ago, this film wouldn't have been possible to raise this kind of finance without a streamer and in German language. But now the appetite for foreign film has gone up with, films like Parasite winning for Best Picture and Best Foreign Film. And then you've got Sam Mendes' 1917 shining a light in World War I and seeing that there was an appetite for that. Really, the timing was absolutely everything.
Let's go to the ads. Stay there to hear All Quiet on the Western Front screenwriter Lesley Paterson on adjusting to life after the huge success of the film and her hopes for the Oscars. Welcome back. Lesley, the film is obviously nearly all in German, but you don't actually speak any of the language, do you? Where did that decision come from, and what was it like adapting to that as a screenwriter?
Well, here's the good news about it. When we initially adapted it, of course, we did a lot of research. We read a lot about the German perspective, trench war diaries from the German perspective. Obviously, the historical context in terms of the armistice signing, the reparations that Germany had to pay, the last 6 hours of the war, all of these elements that within our research we discovered. And then we adapted it in English, went on this journey. When Edward came on board as a director and as a co-writer, he did a draft of the script, which really infused it with that German sensibility. And then, of course, translating it was far easier because, his vision was encapsulated in it as well. So it was really a team effort that was pretty seamless, to be honest.
That's Edward Berger you mentioned there, who directed the film and was born in Germany.
Wieder mehr als 40.000 Tote allein in den letzten Wochen. Es ist vorbei.
When you all watched the film back after it was finished for the first time, what was that like, given all the work, the 16 years that had gone into that moment? Did it live up to your expectations?
Oh, it was better. There was no question about it. We all watched it. My husband, who played a large role in this film as well, Simon, my husband and I, and my mum and father-in-law and my sister-in-law, we all watched it last Christmas. We were given a link by Netflix, of the cut, and it was mind-blowing. It was very, very emotional for all of us because we'd all been invested in this journey. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty profound to see your words up there, but just to see your vision up there and it finally coming together and the beauty of what Ed and Malta have created.
Obviously, it's become a huge hit. Why do you think this film has become so successful and touched so many people's lives?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's incredibly timely given what's going on in the Ukraine at the moment. So I think there's a larger awareness of, anti-war messaging and what does that mean and what does that look like. And then I think that the fact that it's told from quote unquote the enemy as we know them is given us a different sense of humanity about the German nation. And that is really appealing, I think, to a wide audience, to really have empathy, to look outside, to share in another country's experience and to try and come to some understanding of it from their perspective. Because this story is really one that is not about a hero or an adventure. It's just such a true anti-war an anti-war sentiment. And I also think the way that Ed and our cinematographer shot this, James, it's so immersive and it's so intense. It takes the audience member on an experience that they've probably never had before. So, and I think it's just an unusual film told from the outside-in perspective that Ian and I brought, and then the inside-out perspective that Ed and the rest of the German crew brought.
Now, obviously, you're going to the BAFTAs now. You got the Oscars coming up. Has there been any real pinch me moments yet? What's been the most surreal thing since the film's release?
Oh God, every moment. I mean, every moment. Arriving on the red carpet, having all, you get in front of the photographers and they're all screaming your name and you're like, what? to being called out as a winner, to meeting your massive idols in film. Whether that's, the likes of Austin Butler or, Kate Blanchett or, there's so many moments where my husband and I have just pinched each other and thought, is this really happening? So it's going to take a long while just to absorb it and have a sense of what's really happened.
And have you still got time to do triathlons, or are you too busy now?
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty busy. We've got a bunch of projects we've got going on right now that we're developing all over the shop. But I still train every morning for 3 to 4 hours, and that's when that's when I get a lot of my ideas. But it's also when I watch a lot of the content that's coming out, so I'm up to date with what's going on. So when I'm in meetings, I can really draw upon the current marketplace. So it feels like I'm at least doing kind of 2 things at once and multitasking.
And obviously the big one, the Oscars are on Sunday. How will you actually feel if you win?
Oh, man. I think probably a whole other level of, overwhelmingness. But by that point, we might just be so exhausted. You're like, okay, we just really want to enjoy the experience, to be honest, because you can't guarantee anything. And we're now going to sort of just really ratchet down on making sure people have watched our film and that the word is out there to really get behind it. So that's the goal right now. And what will be, and we're just going to really try and enjoy the Oscar experience.
And that's it from The Leader. This podcast is back on Monday at 4 p.m.